Welcome to the No Spin News. I am Monica Crowley, in today for Bill O'Reilly. Thanks so much for joining us. And please check out my own podcast called the Monica Crowley Podcast. It's available on all podcast platforms. So wherever you get your podcast, please check mine out. It is fire. It's pure fire every day. You will love it, I promise you. All right, we've got a lot to get to today. We've got a lot of news coming at us, including primary results from yesterday and the radical insanity going on the campus of Yale Law School. All of our law schools are now radicalized, but Yale could be the worst of them all. So we will definitely bring you that story. First, though, we've got to cover the breaking news coming out of Texas, this absolutely horrific school shooting that left 19 elementary school children dead, as well as 2 adults and many more injured. The suspect in this case, who was shot dead by law enforcement, 18-year-old Salvador Ramos, he shot and wounded his grandmother in a domestic argument before he went on to the school. But then he went on to the school and he was carrying just bags of guns and ammunition. The grandmother, is still alive. She survived being shot in the face by her grandson. She is in the hospital. And you can imagine that police will absolutely want to talk to her about what happened and what gave rise to this horrific attack. Early reports are now saying that this criminal who shot up the school and killed all these people, including these young kids, that he was a loner, he was bullied, he had very few friends, and that his home life was a mess. And I want to get into that part of the equation here in just a minute. He was shot dead by a Border Patrol agent, someone who's part of the elite Border Patrol unit down there who was working in the area. He saw this crime in progress and he shot dead without waiting for any backup. He shot dead the suspect. So this agent was wounded in the attack, but he was able to leave the school under his own power. And we all thank God for that, because this border agent is an American hero. So those are the details of this. I'm sure we're going to get more details as time goes on here. But I need to say a couple of things about what happened yesterday. And keep in mind also, we had another mass shooting the week before in Buffalo in that grocery store. But what happened yesterday is particularly horrifying as a crime, but also as a deeply profound tragedy for the victims, for their families, for that community of very decent, hardworking people down there in Texas, and for the country at large. So I ask you to please keep all of them and the country in your prayers today and as we go forward. I was thinking about this yesterday as the news was coming in. Murdering children is a singular evil. And I do hope that this criminal is burning in hell right now. Evil is real. Evil is on the march. Evil exists. And I think in this society, we're very uncomfortable talking about evil or the nature of evil. But I think we better get more fluid with discussing evil. And it should inform everything that we talk about with regard to horrific crimes like this, because you really can't talk about it without talking about evil. So it's real. But then the conversation veers into, what do we do about this? And every time there is a kind of horrific attack like this, everybody, especially politicians, scramble to look like they're doing something. And it is a human impulse to want to do something to stop this kind of thing. But you cannot legislate away evil. You just cannot do it. This right here is a crisis of the soul. It is not a crisis of policy. This is a crisis of a spiritual battle, good versus evil, light versus darkness. That's what's happening here. And I hear a lot of people talk about how broken our country is, and I don't disagree with that. But the brokenness comes from a spiritual bankruptcy. In this country, we have removed God. We have removed faith. We've removed open discussions about God and faith, certainly from the public square. So how can we expect anything else if we're all afraid to discuss evil and the spiritual war that we are in? This country needs a spiritual renewal. It needs a spiritual restoration if we're going to have any chance of bringing this country back. That's number one. Number two is leadership. So last night we got word that President Biden was going to address the nation about this horrific crime. And I thought, okay, I went into it with an open mind. I thought, okay, let's hear what he's got. Because any president has many jobs, but one of the hats any president wears is to be comforter in chief when something like this happens, to unite us in our grief, to bring us together, to offer a moment of reflection and prayer, to uplift the nation in a dark moment. Did we get that from Joe Biden yesterday? No, we did not. Instead, what we got was a series of tired, old, tiresome talking points from the left about guns and gun control. He spewed all kinds of predictable leftist pablum when the country was crying out for the president to bring us together. It was a really grotesque display of partisanship. You know, he was talking about gun control and policy, all from the left, at a time when those children's bodies were still warm on the ground, and that there were still missing children, with parents going out of their minds with worry and panic about the fate of their children. The president was out there yammering on about gun control. But what do you expect? Joe Biden has always been a hack. But it's one thing to be a hack when you are in the United States Senate and you're one of 100 and you can hide behind the others. It's another thing entirely to be a hack when you're president of the United States. That puts all of us in incredible danger. And yesterday, it was just a catastrophic disappointment. So since he injected policy into this, let's talk a little bit about that. To be clear, this criminal, who's now been shot dead, violated multiple gun laws. The idea that more gun laws would have prevented this or any of the other mass shootings that we've seen is absurd. And the implication from Biden and the left that those of us who oppose additional gun laws like this, like of the kind they're proposing, including gun confiscation, the idea that those of us who oppose that are somehow in favor of these evil mass shootings is disgusting. None of the gun control policies that the left is constantly throwing out there would have stopped any of these mass shootings. And the American people know that. In fact, Rasmussen just released a poll which was taken after the Buffalo grocery store shooting of last week, but before this shooting in Texas. And if we could put up the result there, Rasmussen asked the American people, is it possible to completely prevent mass shootings? And look at this, 61% of the American people say no, it's not possible. And they're exactly right. We all know evil exists. Again, we need to be having this conversation. We all know this. We know that there are lunatics out there. We know that there are criminals out there. And since Cain and Abel, violence has been a part of the human story, and it's not going to stop. So yes, you can do things to mitigate it, but you're never going to eradicate it. People know that. So when it comes specifically, though, to schools, and like I said, killing children is a singular evil, the answer always was to upgrade the security provisions in these schools, to upgrade all of their security in schools. And people are constantly saying, well, we can't afford that. Excuse me, Congress just approved $40 billion to go to Ukraine. I wonder if they're protecting Ukrainian schools. Who knows? But they find the money when they want to for their priorities. I would say our kids' safety is a big priority, wouldn't you? So find the money. And you know what? The money actually already exists, because under the Trump administration and then the Biden administration, all of these COVID relief bills had billions of dollars in there for schools. Yes, for COVID, but now COVID is essentially over. So let's take some of those billions of dollars and upgrade the security systems and precautions in these schools. The money already exists. It's sitting there unused. Let's use it. Some other common sense solutions. How about armed security in these schools? Oh, I don't want guns around my kids. Well, you know what? The answer is a good guy with a gun trumps a bad guy with a gun. Single points of entry in schools. Remember when we were growing up, all of the entrances were open, and at the end of the day, you'd run out onto the baseball field. Well, now close them from the outside so that people can not get in. So you've got one point of entry into schools, training staff, and of course, mental health. Like evil, mental health is something nobody wants to talk about, but it is critically important because, when you look at these school shooters, they all look a little crazy, right? They behave crazy, and nobody wants to intervene or get involved, but I think we have to. By the way, have you noticed that the same people calling for us to ban guns and rely on the police, you shouldn't have a weapon to defend yourself, rely on the cops, they are the same ones who have been calling for defunding the police and also who are insisting on keeping the border wide open and allowing a tidal wave of illegal guns to come into the country. So do you see what we're saying here? You see what's really going on? It's not about the guns for them. It's only and always about power and control.
Supply chain issues have been a catalyst in bringing high-tech manufacturing back to the USA. My tech expert and founder of Brownstone Research calls it the Great Recalibration, and he discusses it in his newsletter, Near Future Report. For the past 35 years, he has helped his subscribers safely navigate volatile times, and he also answers your most pressing questions, like how to protect your money from inflation. What are the implications of a new digital currency and the Great Reset? What will the Fed do with interest rates? And what is expected from the stock market in 2022? Brownstone Research has been at the forefront of nearly every major market move for the past 35 years. Let Jeff Brown help you by signing up for his newsletter today at a 75% discount. It's a 12-month subscription for only $49. Please go to jeffbrowntech.com. jeffbrowntech.com, jeffbrowntech.com.
The president today is doing something that's related. It was on his schedule prior to this shooting, but it's related to what's going on. He has signed an executive order to reform policing in America. And there are a lot of different elements to it in terms of accountability by the cops. But it also is going to limit the use on chokeholds and no-knock entries for the police. So he signed that today. And that will go forward. I would just remind you that Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, after the George Floyd murder, which happened 2 years ago today, Tim Scott introduced a police reform bill that had some of these elements to it. He wanted it done immediately to try to quell the uprising in the country, and the Democrats torpedoed it and said no. So yesterday was also a big political day because we had primaries in 5 states with some very interesting results. The big one, of course, Georgia. There was a Republican primary for governor, and the incumbent governor, Brian Kemp, whom Donald Trump loathes for not sticking up for him in the 2020 election, he won his Republican primary, and the Trump-endorsed candidate, David Perdue, lost by 50, that's 50 points. So I'm sure President Trump is none too happy with that result. Stacey Abrams, who he will face in the fall, she was uncontested. So she's going to be the Democratic candidate there. She's going to lose again unless they steal it. The Republican Secretary of State primary race in Georgia, also interesting. The incumbent Brad Raffensperger also did not stick up for Trump during the 2020 election. So Trump went against him and endorsed Jody Hice, but Jody Hice lost. So in the state of Georgia, it does look like those Georgian voters want candidates who can win. Remember, the runoff after the 2020 election, January of 21, gave us two Democrats, John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock. And so I think Georgian voters are up to their eyeballs with playing games, and they're like, we're done. We want an incumbent who can win. On the Senate side, Herschel Walker, who's incredible. He won the Republican primary, and he will face off against Senator Warnock. Also of note in Georgia, Marjorie Taylor Greene, enemy of the left. She won resoundingly in her primary. They keep trying to destroy her, and she keeps surviving, which of course they hate and makes them target her even more. Turning to Texas, I mentioned yesterday that very interesting Democrat House race where you had the incumbent Henry Cuellar, who is taking a tough line on the border and immigration, which makes him a moderate to a conservative in the Democratic circles. He had a primary challenger named Jessica Cisneros, who's way out there progressive, endorsed by Bernie, AOC, the squad. She has not conceded the race. Cuellar leads by a handful of votes, and he has declared victory. So we're watching that. And then the attorney general race in Texas, the incumbent Ken Paxton beat George P. Bush. So this might be the death knell for the Bush dynasty. I told you, Donald Trump has completely changed the landscape of the Republican Party for the better. Speaking of the Democrats, though, more bad news for Biden and the Democrats, and his party is just sucking salt. Listen to this brand new Gallup poll shows that a mere 16% of adults are satisfied with the direction of the country. 16. I want to know who these 16% are and what are they on? If they think that this is good, I'd like to meet them. Satisfaction by political party. 24% of Democrats are satisfied with the direction of the country. 4% of Republicans are satisfied. Again, I would like to meet this 4% of the GOP who thinks things are going well. 18% of independents are satisfied. These are catastrophic numbers for Biden and his party, especially going into November, but also 24, because they're not going to change. They're not going to change one bit. There's going to be no course correction. This is the fundamental transformation of the nation. So they're going to continue with these policies, even at the expense of losing power, because for them, it's about advancing the Marxist ball. Okay, speaking of Marxists, I want to bring you this story because it's incredible. You know, our elite law schools are increasingly radicalized on the left. And they've been this way for a while, and maybe all law schools are like this, but certainly the elite law schools are. They're just hotbeds of radicalism. So as you know, a couple of weeks ago, we got that leak from the Supreme Court about a possible decision to overturn Roe versus Wade, which would kick back the question about abortion back to the states. Well, all hell is breaking loose over at Yale Law School, other campuses too, but Yale Law School. This is just an incredible story where you have first-year students calling for ostracizing their conservative colleagues and tossing out the Constitution. Again, we seem to hear these stories all the time, but this is particularly problematic because think about this. The leftist indoctrination and radicalization is happening at all levels of education, but particularly in these law schools where they're supposed to be educating and training our future guardians of the law.
Inflation now at its highest level in 40 years. Interest rates skyrocketing. A recession may loom. Our retirement accounts are in real danger. If you want to protect your future, do what I did. Call the only precious metal dealer I trust, American Hartford Gold. They can show you how to protect your savings and retirement accounts by diversifying your portfolio with physical gold and silver. All it takes to get started is a short phone call, and they will have physical gold and silver delivered right to your door or put inside your IRA or 401k. They are the highest rated firm in the country A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, and thousands of satisfied clients. Plus, tell them O'Reilly sent you, and they'll give you up to $2,500 of free silver on your first order. So don't wait. Please call now, 877-444-GOLD, 877-444-GOLD, or text GOLD to 65532. Again, that's 877-444-GOLD, or text GOLD to 65532. All right, here's the final thought of the day. We're off tomorrow on Monday, back on Tuesday, rocking and rolling. So, Memorial Day. So, a couple of days ago, I donated a track chair to independencefund.org. You know what these are. These are the high-tech wheelchairs that give severely wounded vets mobility. They can go to the beach, go hunting, helps them, their family, helps everybody. These chairs are $15,000 each. I try to buy a few a year. And the one I bought goes to specialist Ricky Rayleigh of Iowa. And he was paralyzed in Iraq from the waist down. Now, this shows you how long some of our vets have been waiting for these track chairs. He got hurt in the Iraq War. All right? So we have 35 vets now waiting for track chairs. We have delivered 2,540 chairs. Now, Ricky's going to get his chair in Peoria, Illinois on June 3rd next week, and the duo Florida-Georgia Line is going to perform at that ceremony. They'll be there. And they are patriots, Florida-Georgia Line. So that's going on in Peoria. If you'd like to find out more about Independence Fund, it's simple. You just go to independencefund.org. You don't have to buy the full chair. I mean, I'm lucky enough where I can do that. You could just give a donation. And for Memorial Day, I mean, what better thing to do than that? You know, millions and millions of Americans have died to preserve our freedom and the freedom of people overseas. The Vietnamese. That war was fought to protect them, those poor people, from communism. Subsequently, we pulled out. We did not lose that war militarily. We pulled out because it was untenable to be there any longer, just like Afghanistan. All right? And now the Vietnamese are enslaved by the Hanoi Communist government. We kept them free, at least for some years, and hundreds of thousands of Vietnamese came here to the USA, as they should have. So we are a noble nation, all right? And I want to reinforce that on Memorial Day weekend because of all the hatred that we're seeing from the progressive left. Wretched country. Oh, it makes me so angry, I can't tell you how angry it makes me. But I'm going to control myself. I am. But I'm not giving them any quarter. I'm going to name the names. And we want you to have a great weekend. Relax a little bit. Have some fun. No mask for me this weekend. I'm going to get out in the fresh air. We'll see you Tuesday. If you own a home or property, here are 2 reasons you never want to become the victim of home title fraud. Reason 1. When a cyber criminal worms his way onto your home's title, he'll take out loan after loan using your home's equity. Then he'll vanish, leaving you to prove you didn't commit the fraud. Reason 2. You could be a victim of home title fraud and not know it for months. No agency notifies you or asks if you sold your home or added someone to the title. You'll find out when the collection calls start coming for loans you never took out. Nobody knows about how to help stop this crime more than Home Title Lock, America's trusted leader. I urge you to go to HometitleLock.com, read the testimonials from retired FBI agents and others, then register your home address to see if you are already a victim. And when you protect your home, tell them Bill sent you for 30 free days of protection. So please go to HometitleLock.com, HometitleLock.com.
Bill O'Reilly is back on TV and only on The First. No Spin News, every weeknight at 8 p.m. Eastern, only on The First.